So today I'm going to be ranking every single character in My Heroes One's Justice 2. Oh boy, that is a long title. First off, just as a notion, I would like to say, all of this is my personal opinion as a new player to this game. And secondly, I will be having a tier list at the very end of the video so you can see my final standings. So with this game's 51 characters, get ready, grab a drink, I'm gonna be here a while. Starting off, we have the shy animal kid that every single school has to have, Tamaki. So, Tamaki's a little weird. Not in his character, but in his playstyle. On one hand, he likes to play mid-range with some of his attacks, and on the other hand, he likes to grab you and then drag you through the mud. Another thing of note is his super, and how it's really, really bad. It does pathetically low damage when it hits the opponent, lasts not very long, and really hard to hit the opponent in the first place. I guess the way you play Tamaki depends on your personal playstyle, because he fits multiple people. You either want to be aggressive and play close, or be a little skittish and play mid. All in all, he's actually a pretty good character, and a fun play. Next up is Nijir, or you want to call him Hato. Hato's playstyle in this game is probably one of the more unique playstyles. I don't see much others like it. While she can attack from afar, doing decent damage, most of her moveset includes her bouncing to her opponent to get real close just so they can thrash him around. She will often set up her opponents into very quick short combos that deal lots of damage, and then shoot from afar to whittle them down. When you play Hato, you're never on the run, your opponents are. Next up, it's the golden boy himself, Mirio. Mirio has some really good highs and some pretty bad lows, unfortunately. While he can actually go invincible for a period and does decent damage, he's unfortunately a little jank to play. Oftentimes he's open, leaving his opponents to deal damage from afar or grab him. I think maybe he needed a little bit more time in the oven, but honestly, he's not bad. Next up is Izuku Midoriya. Wait, no, get out of here. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Deku is definitely a character you can tell the developers put a lot of time into. For example, he can do all kinds of combos, he has good damage, he feels good to play. However, his one flaw is that when he uses an attack, it leaves him very open because he has a big cooldown time, allowing for his opponents to get off a combo. And him having no ranged options isn't great either, but still, he's good. Next up we have Kai, or Overhaul. Finally, we're getting into the broken characters. Overhaul is like the god of spacing. He can attack from any direction, any place, anytime, and he can make it last forever. When you play as Overhaul, it feels like you have full control over the battlefield at all given times. Unless someone's in the air, you're gonna be able to hit them. Very few characters can deal with Overhaul's massive amounts of range. They have to either be super fast or have great range themselves. Other than that, he has a really cool grab. Probably genuinely one of the best characters in the game. Next up is Rappa. I don't know why he's here. Rappa just feels like he was Overhaul's best underling, so I guess he's added to the roster. Jokes aside, in both offense and defense, Rappa's probably one of the best characters in the entire game. Able to do big damage while also sustaining good bulk, he only has one flaw. He's really, really slow. To the point where if he's not dashing, he's just a sitting duck. But with a nasty counter, he makes up for this. Final thoughts being that Rappa is probably the most aggressive character in the game, and he makes sure you know it. Next up, Kai version 2, or Better Overhaul. Take everything I said about how good Overhaul was originally, and then double that. Any small problems he had before are now fixed. Now he can hit people in the air, and he can hit people even farther than he can before. The only downside is that his speed has decreased, but only slightly, and with his new arsenal, he doesn't even need to move that fast. He can stun his opponents and then dash to them, and then they're dead. Basically, he's just way better Overhaul, and Jesus Christ, he's busted. Next up, we have Denki Kaminari. This cheeky little fucker's main gimmick is the fact that every single one of his specials can stun you. It does not help, however, the fact that these are super easy to pull off and are ranged. Basically, Denki has the ability to stop anyone in the tracks almost anywhere on the field. There's also no, counterbalance. He has great damage and is easy to combo into after stunning people. It's like if you gave Pikachu from Melee Adderall. Next up is Tsu. Tsu is another long-range character, however, they have a bit of a caveat. because they're super precise. Basically, the hitbox on their projectiles is very small, but they do have a good melee kit to help balance it out, so comboing with these things is actually really easy. Her projectile also has the ability to push people away. She's also able to go invisible, and her super is pretty good. Sue feels like the developers just threw a bunch of stuff at the wall and hope it stick, and honestly, turned out pretty good. Next up is Bargain Bin Zuko Todoroki. I'm starting to notice a bit of a trend when it comes to broken characters. The ability to shoot from far range and then dash to your opponent to close range is horrifyingly strong. While also using fire to slowly whittle down opponents, and using ice to freeze and stun opponents, you have almost every option in the book. Along with good damage output, look at that, Todoroki can basically handle any situation. Unless you're a handful of characters, Todoroki is basically your counter pick. Next on the list, it says we have Feral Pomeranian. Oh, sorry, that's just Bakugo. Bakugo is this hand grenade with Usain Bolt's legs that just goes on a tear. The game does not do him that justice. Bakugo has a lot of, standing attacks that don't allow him to, jump forward and attack like he's supposed to. More times than not, I found myself waiting for my opponent to attack me. On the rare occasions, I would go forward with some of his attacks, but he just feels too stationary. At least he did keep his insane damage output. Unless you're mid-combo, it just never feels like you're actually playing Bakugo. Actually, unless you're dashing. When you're dashing, it does feel threatening. Personally, I was underwhelmed, but he's still not a bad character. Next up is Shigaraki, but with hands. And oh boy, did they deliver. Shigaraki in this version is an up-close character with only a single to two mid-range moves, and I appreciate that. He's very grabby. He likes to grab things. It makes sense with his gimmick, and honestly, it's kind of fun. And his super is actually quite good along with his armored attack. Other than that, he's pretty balanced. He's such a great interpretation of Shigaraki in terms of game format, and honestly, I wouldn't change a thing about him. He's fun, he's balanced, he's everything you want from a good character. Why did you ruin him so badly? I don't understand. Shigaraki, but with no hands, he's just worse. I don't mean it in a way oh, they ruined his damage. I mean, they made his damage a little too good. He lost all of his, grabby attacks that made him so Shigaraki in his previous iteration. He just feels like a run-of-the-mill bad guy. I'm not mad, just disappointed. Also, they did all of his attacks are a bit worse, they're easier to break through, so he actually is in fact worse, not in just style, but in a lot of ways. Speaking of being disappointed, All For One. All For One in this game is the perfect incarnation of the meme of the boss when you fight him, and then the boss when you get him. So many of his attacks require lots amount of wind-up for little payoff. He likes to look like he's doing a lot of damage, but honestly, he just doesn't combo well. His one massive upside is his long-range grab that actually does combo, so it's really your only option if you want to sustain anything. He also does have a ranged attack, but it's really easy to dodge. Yeah, he's unfortunately kind of bad. Next up is Jiro. Jiro has by far one of the most interesting kits in the entire game. Imagine if you took Denki and Sue, combined them, and then made them more fun. Jiro takes controlling the area to a new level, with stunning attacks, far, close, and all kinds of ranged attacks, good melee capabilities, and so much fun to play. Their playstyle matches the person playing them, so they're always going to be a good time. Next up is Momo. Momo likes to play midfield a lot, too close and the other person could overwhelm them, but too far and they can no longer hit you. Most of the time, her attacks will usually come from afar, hitting her opponents away, so she can use another attack, maybe her super, to fire at them from afar. Speaking of which, her super having ranged capabilities and lots of damage is always a great touch. Momo is a character that rewards patience and strategy because it takes a while to learn them, but when you do, it pays off. Let's talk about Kirishima. Kirishima hits like a belt buckle on a Tuesday afternoon from your drunk dad. That's my way of saying he has really good damage. Basically, short combos give him the trade-off of doing insane damage very fast. The only really downside, which isn't too much of a downside, is a lot of his attacks are just straightforward lines with reckless abandon. He also gains super armor on several of his attacks, not just like one or two. He's not here for a long time, but the time he is here, it'll hurt. Next is Uraraka. Uraraka is one of the characters that actually makes great use of their quirk in a unique way. Not only is it a hindrance to their opponent, messing a person's combo up and forcing them to float in the air, but it's also used to set up combos, allowing them to get an extra hit so they can stun them into something like this. And also having access to a mid-range super in their arsenal is fantastic. Uraraka's combo setting floaty playstyle actually makes her very unique and fun to play, while also having good damage and good moves helps a lot. What do I gotta say about Twice? Let's start with the negatives. Well, first of all, Twice does not do great damage, unfortunately. Twice also has a slight problem with dropping combos. Alright, but the good stuff is, the combos are real long. So if he drops them, he's probably already done a shit ton of damage. He also has this weird ability to fake opponents out when using a move. And finally, the variety in his attacks kind of keep people on their feet, so usually someone's going to struggle against Twice one way or another. Next is Toga. When I first played Toga, I thought she was super limiting and not exactly very fun. And the reason why I felt that is because I wasn't using her specials properly. Toga lacks variety because half of her variety is her opponent. Getting to use my opponent's kit against them is immensely satisfying, and then being able to switch back into Toga is also really useful. She also comes using range and close-up in multiple ways, so she actually has more variety than I originally gave her credit for. So when you're fighting Toga, make sure you know your own moves as well. Next is Stain. How do you goof up this hard? All they had to do was make Stain fun to play and they failed. He's slow. All he does is use slash attacks. He doesn't use his quirk, at all. He does, no combos. He's just not fun to play in any way. Yeah, another disappointment. Moving on. Next up is Tokoyami. Tokoyami's actually a pretty interesting character in this game, specifically in playstyle. To start off with, he's exclusively a mid-range character. His shadow does all the fighting for him except for one little jab. So if you get stuck in a situation where your shadow is currently doing its super and you're alone and your opponent didn't get caught in it, tough luck. Other than that one specific circumstance, he's pretty solid all around. Nothing super glamorous about him, but nothing bad either. So yeah, if you're careful, you should be fine. Next up, Mr. Grape himself, Minoru Mineta. For as much as I fucking hate Mineta, he's unfortunately really fun. Mineta's main gimmick is to use Pop-Off to hindrance his opponents by slowing them down, and if you throw enough at them, they actually stop moving for a few seconds. Mineta's only real downside is that he can't deal with long range, but other than that, he's a pretty good character, actually. Next is Mina Ashido. Mina has probably the best movement in the entire game, simply based off of attacks. Most of her melee arsenal includes her breakdancing towards her opponents and then busting a move as she busts their ankles. She can also use mid-range attacks via acid powers that slowly whittle down her opponents. Combine this all with easy combos and good damage, she's an insane character. Next up is Tenya Ida. Ida, to put it bluntly, is easily the fastest character in the game in moves, in his running speed, and everything. Every single attack dealt by Ida feels like you just got hit with the force of 1,000 suns. He likes to do short combos with high damage, and again, he's the fastest character in the game. Ida's probably the best speedster I've ever played in a fighting game, so yeah, give him a shot. Now we got Mr. Compress. So, you know how I said Tokoyami was exclusively mid-range? Mr. Compress is worse. All of his attacks are so slow and take so long to use, and they can't even combo into anything. Playing Mr. Compress in this game feels like you're just a sand timer, waiting for your opponents to get bored and then quit, or eventually, maybe you'll whittle them down. Mr. Compress just feels like a boring mess, unfortunately. Next up is Dabi. It's about time we got another good villain. Dabi is everything I wanted from a fire user. Dabi has a great bag of tricks. He's able to burn all of his opponents with almost every single one of his attacks. He can play long range, however it's a little slow, so he can use close range to be quick and snappy. Dabi is fun, however he uses a little bit more of a scummy slow playstyle, but he's not the worst character to do this with. But still fun, good overall. We move on to Muscular. Now, what can I say about Muscular? I don't know. I mean, he's tanky, he's bulky, he's a bit slow. It's kind of it. Other than having slightly above average tankiness and damage, he's super generic, like a random grunt. Next is Super Saiyan Goku Blue. Wait, hold on, wrong script. This version of Deku is him at his most overpowered, and it shows. Not only does he keep the insane combo potential, movement, and speed, he also just does more damage. But he now fixes a problem that he used to have by having a ranged super that does crazy damage and comes in multiple waves. The only real flaw that Deku in this form actually has is the controls. Because once Deku starts a combo, it's hard to get him out of it, so unless you're playing on not auto controls, you might have a little trouble with him, but other than that, oh my god. And now we have Deku again. This version of Deku is the only one with ranged attacks, but he's not shoot style. The first thing you'll notice is that he doesn't have the movement of the other Dekus, instead opting for a more slow range play style. Last notable thing is his super does have range and actually gives you a buff for a short period of time afterwards, making you do more damage. However, when the buff runs out, you are stunned for a long period of time. Definitely a different playstyle, but overall, he's okay. Next is Gran Torino. Stepping into the ring when you're 3'11" and over 60 years old is pretty bold. Like in the actual show, Gran Torino relies on quick, fast, one-hit moves. However, they lack in damage, and very little to none of his moves combo well into each other. So basically, he's fast in a straight line, but worse so he's kind of just bad. Eat this hair. So basically, All Might punches, and that's about it. And even though that's literally what he does, I don't know, I think I expected a little bit more. He feels like if Rappa had soft punching gloves, it's still gonna hurt, but not nearly as much. There's just no really reason other than being slightly faster to play him over Rappa or another character we're gonna cover. And this is,
Inasa.
So Inasa is almost entirely a long-range character that relies on long combos to do lots of damage. This includes having to wait 5 decades for an opening, then it lasts for the same time, so I guess we're even. And even though this should make him boring and drawn out to play, it's always fun. He's always throwing the opponent side, up, down, whatever, so it's always interactive and new. The only downfall is without combos his damage is lacking, but still, great. Next is Camion. Who on the dev team okayed this? I'm not even just talking about her clothes. Like, some of her animations are just... why? Okay, but like her actual gameplay, she's really good. I don't know why. Kami can do crazy combos that can go on forever. Her super also does great not again. With the fact that no one expects Kami to be this good and her amazing damage output and combo strings, probably one of the best characters in the game. So great character, all they needed to do was just chill a little bit with the animations. Moving on. We don't really need to talk about him, it's okay, but we could just move on. Shinji is without a doubt the worst character in this game. Flaw 1, he does about 0 damage. Flaw 2, all of his attacks are close range except for one and take forever to use. Flaw 3, he has no combo potential. His highest combo is 3 hits. Top it all off with his disgusting power, and oh my god, he sucks. Speaking of not that, we have Hawks. Hawks has gotta be one of the most faithful adaptations from the anime into this game I've ever seen. Firstly, he's incredibly fast, and all of his combos string very well together at high speeds. Secondly, he feels like a very flashy but efficient character, and his super is just magnificent with its range. So what do you get when you take a fast character with insane range and combo ability? You get an insanely good character. Next is Aizawa. Aizawa in this game feels like he's only in it for the money. Like, of course he showed up, but he's not trying. But first, let's talk about what he's actually good at. He has a lot of counters to deal with blocking and has the ability to turn off half of a person's moveset just by looking at them. However, he's really hard to learn how to play and also can't combo for shit. Top it off with terrible hitboxes but good damage and you got yourself a very mixed character. Oops, looks like I forgot to record. Being the #1 hero and #1 abusive parent, Endeavor everybody. So Endeavor can play long and close range with his fire abilities, or also just, turn into an actual nuke. Endeavor is a fantastic character whenever you want to constantly apply pressure from every angle to your opponent. The last good thing about Endeavor is the fact that his skill ceiling is actually quite high. He's great with combos, damage, and all-around everything. Next up is Nighteye. Nighteye is actually really annoying to talk about due to his annoying-ass abilities. Like, who thought it was a good idea to give Nighteye the fastest high-damage projectile in the entire game? Not only with his quick combos that do lots of damage, he also gets a counter into a grab that allows him to basically read the opponent before it even happens. Night-Eye's only real problem is his lack of mobility, but once he has an opening, it's all over. Another character that I don't exactly know why they're here, Fat Gum, everybody. Getting the obvious out of the way, of course he's slow. He's very slow. However, this is immediately made up for having incredible mobility in his moveset. Adding on to the fact that every single combo looks like it hits harder than Thor's hammer, he's a pretty good character. Unfortunately, I don't showcase it here, but using his second meter super, he's able to actually turn into his skinny form, giving him faster movement, better combos, and oh my god, he's kind of broken. Fat Gum is not only underrated in the show, but underrated in this game. Speaking of underrated, Gang Orca backs up his design by playing as one of the most aggressive characters. Gang Orca normally plays close range, but he actually has a ranged option. He also has an all-around attack with his super, which does a lot of damage and opens up for air combo strings. He also has several grab attacks to deal with blocking or slow attacks. Playing Gang Orca makes you feel like a constant threat, and oh boy, he fulfills that role perfectly. And now we got Nomu. Alright, let's cut to the chase. Nomu is literally just a better All Might. So basically, imagine what I said for All Might, but get rid of the bad parts. Nomu is faster, Nomu has more range, Nomu has a grab, and he does the same amount of damage. And the cherry on top is he's just more fun. He's unique, and all his moves feel chaotic and crazy. The only negative thing about Nomu isn't really a negative. He just screeches a little too much. Now we have Tetsu. Who the hell named this kid? At first glance, Tetsu looks like a worse Kirishima, because in most cases he kinda is. The reason why is due to his lack of movement options and a slower walking speed. Then you use his super. And at first glance you're like, oh, it's just a pretty high damage super, but it's not amazing. Well, that is the case until you realize it's After Effect, because it makes you completely invincible. Oh, and it also buffs your damage and gives you more combo opportunities. So, before his super, he's a pretty alright character. After his super, he's one of the best characters in the game. Next up is Kendo. Kendo is a character that's constantly in your face and will not let you leave. Kendo has a very fast input, allowing her to move very quickly in short forms of burst movement to get to you fast, deal damage quickly, and then just obliterate your health bar in seconds. Her combos also feel super satisfying to pull off, and also her super, for some reason, can break through armor. Only real problem is she isn't immune to dealing with long-range characters. If you get her far enough away, her short bursts of movement aren't enough to reach you, but if she can reach you, it's pretty much over. Oh, Shinzo's also here. Alright, I see. It's been a while since we've had an actually bad character. Actually, don't get me wrong, they're not bad, they're just not fun. Because they have actually very good damage output, way too much in my opinion, but when you can't combo for anything, and you have practically no range, there's no point to it. Unfortunately, Shinzo is bad, mid at best, so bye-bye. Hold on, Mei's in this game? Mei immediately shattered my expectations by being an extremely fun character to play, because she's not just fun, she's also good. The second they gave a high mobility character a stun move, it was all over. Mei is probably the best example of a gimmick character in this entire game. Oh, fun little fact, she can also nuke you. They're fun, they're good, and they're not broken. Sign me up. Who's next on the list? Oh my god, yes! Yes! Man, the myth, the legend, Gentle Criminal. He kinda sucks. Yeah, with his lack of combo strings and minimal damage, he unfortunately isn't very good. And that pains me more than anything else I've said in this video. His only real saving grace is the fact that he gets a pretty good buff from his super, but that's only if you can hit the opponent. If not, it's kind of useless. This also will not stop me from becoming the #1 gentleman in all of Canada. Next up, we have Disco Fever. Now, upon first glance, you wouldn't think he'd be any good, but you're wrong. Oyama has a good super. Long range, medium range, close range, high damage, long combos, charge attacks, grab attacks, armored attacks. What? Along with multiple mobility options. He's really good, guys. Why'd you make him this good? Now it's Present Mike's time. Ah, another zoning character. But a little different. President Mike is actually a busted character that just gets overlooked. He serves you a nice, never-ending combo with decent damage and can hit from basically any single range. Yeah, I genuinely don't know why every single player doesn't play this character. I never see any Present Mikes. Okay, that's it. Why are you in this game? Kuroguri is a bastard to fight, but it's not really his fault. Because the devs of this game decided it'd be a really silly little funny prank if they gave him one 20-second long unescapable combo. That's literally all he can do, and oh my god, it does a lot of damage. Did I mention it's inescapable? I'm obviously over-exaggerating because he can do a really good grab and a few solid jabs, but the combo is the main thing everyone spams. So, annoying, but actually really good. And last but not least, we have Mrs. Midnight. Midnight is a character that requires setup and payoff. She uses her mid-range attacks along with her slow stun specials to slowly whittle down her opponents. Even so, she's not boring to play. She's still somewhat interesting. So in summary, she's pretty good. And that was every single character in My Heroes 1's Justice 2 ranked. This is the final tier list and my final standings on the characters in this video. Thank you so much for watching this video and for all of the support on my channel. I love y'all. Have a great day.